To be honest, I ain't ever want to rap. To this day, I don't even like being called a rapper. Like, I just write music because, a lot of the times it's the only thing that I can do to get a lot of the stuff out that I feel or that I've been through. Honestly, I started writing back in 2016, but a lot of the times, it was just like stuff that I would write when I was really down or I ain't have nowhere else to turn as far as like talking about it and stuff like that. But at the time, I really still ain't want to be a rapper. I ain't want to rap. I ain't want to do art. So I used to put it off. I probably like write here and there and then, once the feeling is past, I'm done with it. Also, like I wasn't really writing songs. Like I was just writing, little bars here and there, like, like little hurt bars, stuff like that. So nothing serious. I just kept pushing it off until I finally went back to college. And when I went to college, of course, you have to write, those papers when you first starting out, talking about your life and stuff like that. And that's when I realized, I really have a lot in my life to talk about, and a lot of stuff that I hadn't really dealt with before that. After that, I ended up having, a family scare with some health stuff. And at the same time, dealing with that, I was originally from South Carolina, and I had moved all the way to Las Vegas. So I was pretty far away from the family, and we had some family health scares. So I wasn't able to get home like I wanted to. And also, that kind of messed with my psyche. So I ended up losing my job. So it was really like a point of I ain't really have, nothing else I could do. I couldn't go home because, I ain't got no job at this point, you know what I'm saying? So, and not being able to be there, it was tough. So a lot of times I just started writing, and, that's when I really started taking it serious. And I realized I had a lot to write about in my life as well. So once I started, it was just like, immediate floodgates. Like I just be sitting in the car and have motivation at times. Like I was Ubering, and like I would have somebody in the back seat, and I get to the red light and I'm like, yo, I gotta get this bar down real quick before this light change. So it was just a different feeling. And then it still just started out as just kind of writing, journal, like, just nothing to a beat, just writing bars. But eventually, I was sending it to friends, and a couple, my one main friend, he was like, yo, this is hard, bro, you gotta do something with this. So I started picking beats and writing over beats, and here we are. You know what I'm saying? My name is Kei. I wouldn't say I'm a rapper. I'm just somebody that writes, about his life, real stuff, stuff that I feel like people can feel, stuff I feel like people need to hear. This journey I'm on, I call it Soulwork, just dealing with a lot of the things on the inside that, we never get to talk about, or, people never really get to share. So just understanding yourself, understanding, the ways that when you were brought up may have, affected you that you never noticed, you know what I'm saying? So, my music has done that for me in a lot of ways, just writing and realizing things. So I'm hoping that it can do the same for others.